Have you ever loved someone so deeply that it almost broke you? You gave your all, your time, your heart, your energy, and instead of feeling stronger, you ended up feeling empty. Seneca once wrote, "He who is overly attached will inevitably suffer." And yet, many of us ignore this truth. We love so hard that we lose ourselves in the process. If you've ever felt that kind of pain, then this video is for you. Before we continue, if you're on a journey of wisdom and self-mastery, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Here, we use Stoic philosophy to bring peace to the storms of modern life. And love is one of the biggest storms there is. Number 1, the trap of loving too hard. We often think loving harder means loving better. But Stoicism teaches us that intensity is not the same as wisdom. Loving too hard can make you blind. It clouds your judgment, and suddenly, your happiness depends on another person's mood, attention, or presence. That's not love anymore. That's attachment dressed as devotion. The Stoics would say, when your well-being depends entirely on someone else, you've surrendered your freedom. Epictetus reminded us, if you want to be invincible, don't put your happiness in things you cannot control. That includes people, even the person you love most. And here's the irony. When you love too hard, you push people away. Why? Because desperation smells. It's like cologne you sprayed 10 times. What you meant as attractive becomes overwhelming. People sense the weight of your need, and it suffocates them. So the first step is honesty. Ask yourself, is this love, or is this fear of being without them? Stoicism calls us to see clearly, even when emotions try to blur our vision. Number 2, why Stoicism isn't against love. Now, let's clear something up. Stoicism doesn't tell us to stop loving. It doesn't tell us to turn into emotionless rocks. That's one of the biggest misconceptions. The Stoics loved deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote tender notes about his wife. Epictetus cared about his students like a father. Love was never the problem. Attachment was. Love, in its pure form, is generous. It says, I want the best for you, whether you give me anything back or not. Attachment, on the other hand, says, I need you to make me feel complete. One liberates, the other chains. Stoicism helps us tell the difference. Think about it this way. If you're holding water in your hand, the tighter you squeeze, the more it slips out. That's what clinging does to love. The Stoic approach is to hold gently, with care, but without panic. If it stays, good. If it flows away, also good. So no, Stoicism is not anti-love. It's pro-healthy love. It teaches us to enjoy people deeply, but without forgetting that they're not ours to own. Even your partner, your children, your friends, they're their own beings borrowed to us for a time. Number 3, the practice of loving wisely. So how do we love without losing ourselves? The Stoics give us a practice. Remember impermanence. It sounds dark, but it's freeing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you will lose everything you love, but in that loss, you gain gratitude for the moment. When you love someone, remind yourself, they could be gone tomorrow. Not to scare yourself, but to make today richer. When you know love isn't guaranteed, you stop clinging. You stop demanding. You start appreciating. That's how you love wisely, by remembering that nothing is permanent. Another practice, keep your circle of control in sight. You cannot control whether someone loves you back, stays faithful, or appreciates you. You can only control how you show up, how you give, and how you protect your dignity. If your love depends on their approval, you've already lost. Here's where humor helps. Think about it. When you text someone, good morning, and they don't reply, your brain starts writing a whole Netflix series. Suddenly, they've moved to Brazil, forgotten you exist, and started a family with someone else. That's the imagination, not reality. A Stoic would say, stop, return what you know. They didn't reply, nothing more. Don't let your mind torture you. Number 4, the power of detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without collapsing. The Stoics taught us that love should be a gift, not a contract. If you give your heart as a bribe, waiting for equal return, you'll always be disappointed. But if you give because it is who you are free. This freedom is what makes you strong in relationships. People can sense when your love is grounded instead of needy. You stop demanding constant reassurance. You stop panicking when they need space. And ironically, this makes people more drawn to you, because nothing is more attractive than someone who is calm in love. Detachment also helps with heartbreak. Instead of saying, "I lost everything," the Stoic says, "I was given a gift for a time, and now it has been returned." This shift is everything. It turns bitterness into gratitude and desperation into peace. Think of it like lending money to a friend. If you lend it expecting it back, you'll suffer. But if you see it as a gift, you're free. Love is the same. Give it fully, but without chaining it to your expectations. Number 5, learning to love with strength. Stoicism isn't about killing passion. It's about giving it form. Fire without a container burns the house down. Fire within the fireplace warms the room. Loving too hard is fire without control. Stoicism gives it structure. So if you love deeply, don't see it as a curse. See it as raw power that needs wisdom to shape it. Love with kindness, but don't beg. Love with passion, but don't lose your peace. Love with openness, but keep your freedom. And remember, the most important person you must not abandon in love is yourself. If you disappear in someone else, what do you have left to give? The Stoics remind us, you are enough as you are. Love should be an addition to your life, not a replacement for your soul. So love, but love like a Stoic, deeply, calmly, and without fear. That way, whether people stay or leave, your heart remains whole. Because true love doesn't break you, it builds you. Number 6, the illusion of ownership in love. One of the most dangerous traps in loving too hard is the illusion of ownership. We start to think they are mine, but Stoicism reminds us, nothing truly belongs to us, not people, not possessions, not even our own body in the end. Marcus Aurelius constantly reflected on how everything is on loan from nature, returned when its time is over. When you fall into ownership, jealousy grows. You fear losing what you think is yours. You monitor, you control, you obsess. That's not love. It's fear disguised as protection. Real love allows freedom. It does not cling like chains. And ironically, when people feel free, they are more likely to stay. Imagine you're holding a bird. If you grip too tightly, you'll crush it. If you open your hand, it may stay on its own. That's love without ownership. It's the realization that you can share your life with someone without needing to lock them in. Ownership is an illusion. You don't own their thoughts, their choices, or their destiny. You only have your own. And the sooner you accept that, the less you'll suffer when life takes its course. Number 7, emotional boundaries as a Stoic practice. Loving too hard often means crossing your own boundaries. You sacrifice your time, your sleep, even your values, all in the name of keeping someone happy. But Stoicism teaches us balance, living according to reason, not blind impulse. Boundaries are part of that balance. Think of your mind as a fortress. The Stoics often compared reason to strong walls protecting the city of your soul. If you let someone climb those walls at any time, bringing chaos, you've abandoned your post as the guardian of your own peace. Boundaries are not walls of rejection, but walls of order. Setting emotional boundaries might feel selfish, but it's actually an act of love. When you protect your peace, you show up healthier in relationships. You don't become resentful, drained, or bitter. Instead, you give from a place of fullness. And that's what Stoicism is all about, living in harmony with yourself first. Without boundaries, love becomes a flood that drowns both you and the other person. With boundaries, love becomes a river, flowing, clear, and life-giving. Number 8, humor, detachment, and the drama of love. Let's be honest. Sometimes, when we love too hard, we turn into actors in our own tragic soap opera. A delayed text becomes betrayal. A short reply feels like abandonment. We start imagining conversations that never happened and scenes that don't exist. The Stoics would laugh at this because it's the mind creating unnecessary suffering. Humor can be a form of Stoic medicine. Instead of panicking when someone doesn't reply, laugh at how dramatic your brain is. You can say to yourself, well, I guess they've been abducted by aliens again. Humor breaks the spell. It reminds you that your thoughts are not reality. Marcus Aurelius told himself daily not to be surprised when people act like people. Why not apply the same when love makes us overthink? People get busy. People forget. People have moods. That's normal. Your imagination doesn't need to turn every silence into tragedy. If you can laugh at your own emotional spirals, you weaken their power. Stoicism isn't about being cold, it's about being wise. And wisdom often comes with the ability to laugh at what once terrified you. Number 9. Love as a mirror of your inner state. The Stoics believe the outer world often reflects the state of our inner world. If you love too hard, to the point of obsession, it's often a sign of something missing inside. You are using another person to cover an emptiness you haven't faced. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be loved, love yourself first." When you value yourself, love flows naturally without desperation. But when you neglect your own worth, you place the impossible burden on others to complete you. No one can carry that weight without collapsing. Think about it. When you're confident, calm, and grounded, your love feels light, joyful, and attractive. But when you're insecure, anxious, or empty, your love feels heavy, demanding, and draining. The quality of your relationships mirrors the quality of your inner life. So the Stoic path in love always begins inward. Strengthen your soul, sharpen your reason, and nurture your own well-being. Only then can you love without turning your relationships into cages. Number 10. Choosing love, not losing to it. Finally, Stoicism teaches us to make love a conscious choice, not a force that controls us. When you love too hard, it feels like a wave that knocks you over. You're at its mercy. But the Stoic chooses how to engage with love, just as they choose how to engage with fortune, pain, or loss. You can choose to love with gratitude instead of fear. You can choose to give without keeping score. You can choose to stay calm when uncertainty appears instead of spiraling. This is what separates blind passion from wise love, awareness, and choice. When you choose love wisely, it strengthens you instead of breaking you. It becomes a partnership, not a battlefield. It becomes a source of joy, not endless anxiety. It becomes something you practice with reason and balance, not something you surrender your peace to. And maybe that's the deepest lesson of all. Don't stop loving hard, just stop loving blindly. Love with strength, love with wisdom, and love with the calm confidence of someone who knows they can never lose themselves in another. That is Stoicism in love.